multiplying and dividing rational numbers. Evaluate the following expression using a visual aid. First thing we want to think about is, what does 1/3 times 2/5 mean? It means 1/3 of 2/5. So if I look at 2/5, that would be two of these boxes shaded in. Now if I want 1/3 of that, that means I have to make each one of those 3 pieces. Once I do that, 1/3 means take 1 out of every 3. I'm going to take this first one here, and I'm going to leave the other 2 alone and take the first one. So I have a total of 2 out of 15 boxes. Take a minute, pause the video, and think about how you could have got the answer 2 out of 15 without drawing a picture. Now that you've done that, let's look at the next one. 3/4 times 2/7. So again, that means 3 out of 4, or 3/4 of, so I want 3 out of every 4. And it's 2/7, so I'm going to shade those 2/7 in. And I have to take every box and split it into 4 pieces. And if I count up my pieces, I've got 7 boxes with 4 in each. And the shortcut for adding 4 7 times is multiplying, so I've got 28 pieces total. And I want to take 3 out of every 4 shaded pieces. So I've got 3 in that first box and 3 in the second box to give me 6 out of 28. I also know when I'm dealing with fractions that I always have to reduce them to lowest terms. So if I look at this, I know I have to divide the 6 by 2 and the 28 by 2 because they're both divisible by 2. And that gives me 3 out of 14. Pause the video and think about how you could have gone from this very first line to the last line without drawing a picture, or how you could have gone from the first line to the second line without drawing a picture. Now that you've played with that, or thought about that, and maybe tried a few more examples on your own, hopefully you've realized that just like adding and subtracting, you have to change mixed numbers to improper fractions. You have to reduce all fractions where possible, and you can reduce any numerator with any denominator. Because when I think about 3/4 times 2/7, if I want to do it the fast way, I just multiply the 3 and the 2 together, and the 4 and the 7, which is 6/28. But that means I have to reduce. So if I look at it another way, if I have 3/4 times 2/7, in the end, I divided both the top and the bottom by 2 in this 6/28 fraction. If I just divided this 2 in this numerator by 2 right away, and the 4 in this denominator by 2 right away, sorry, that's not showing up very well. Try that again. 4 divided by 2, I would have been left with 3/2 times 1/7, which right away gives me 3/14. So when I multiply fractions, what do? I take my numerators, so in this case, 2 times -3, and my denominators, and I multiply them together. And that gives me -6/28. But of course, there's a common factor there, so I could have made my life easier. So we're going to erase that right away. If I look, I can divide the 2 by 2 and the 4 by 2. So 2 divided by 2 leaves me with 1/7 times -3/4 divided by 2 leaves me 2. When I multiply my numerators, it's 1 times -3, and I multiply my denominators, I get 7 times 2. Positive times a negative gives me -3 on top, and 7 times 2 is 14. In part B, I have mixed numbers, and we mentioned already that we have to change them to improper fractions. We don't want to work with mixed numbers because we can't get a good idea of what it's going to look like. So if I think about it, one whole has 3 parts in it. So that's why we do 1 times 3. And then we have to add that piece that we already had as a fraction. Multiply by 2 wholes has 12 pieces. So it's 2 times 6 plus 5. And notice we're being really careful to try and keep that negative sign in front of the fraction, because obviously this negative is the overall number. It's not part of the numerator, so it needs to come out front a bit better. So we end up with 4 over 3 multiplied by negative 17 over 6. Now I could just multiply across, but I want to deal with smaller numbers. So I'm going to look. Do 3 and 17 have anything in common? No. Do 4 and 6? Yes. I can divide them both by 2. So I end up with 2 over 3 times negative 17 over 3. And when I multiply across, 2 times negative 17 is negative 34, and 3 times 3 is 9. Dividing fractions is not much different than multiplying with a little twist. We're still going to change all our mixed fractions to improper fractions. We're still going to reduce our fractions where possible, but we can only reduce the numerator and denominator of the same fraction, because we can only reduce diagonally when it's a multiplication sign. We're going to change the sign on the multiplication of division to multiplication, and we're going to flip or take the reciprocal, is a better math word. We're going to take the reciprocal. Sorry, this is getting really messy here to read. We're going to take the reciprocal of the fraction after the division sign. Then we're going to multiply the numerators and the denominators the same way. We could also reduce again at that stage if we needed to. So if we take a look at this first example, negative 4 over 7, it's division. I'm changing it to multiplication, and I take the reciprocal of the fraction that follows. Now, 4 and 7 have nothing that can be reduced. 35 and 12 don't have any common factors. I can look diagonally. So 4 and 12 are both divisible by 4, and 35 and 7 are both divisible by 7. So in the numerator, a negative divided by a positive leaves me negative 1. 7 over 7 is 1. 35 divided by 7 is 5. 12 divided by 4 is 3. And now I multiply my numerators and multiply my denominators. And a negative times a positive is a negative, so it's negative 5 over positive 3. Part B, same thing. 2 wholes with 2 pieces in each is 2 times 2 plus 1. Sorry, same thing, except we have to change everything to a mixed or an improper fraction first. Divided by, I've got a negative number, but it stays in front. 1 whole has 5 pieces plus the 3 pieces in the fraction we started with. 5 over 2 divided by negative 8 over 5. We change our division sign to multiplication, and we take the reciprocal of the fraction. 5 and 2, 5 do not have any common factors, nor do 5 and 8. I can't find any common factors between 5 and 8 or 5 and 2, so I just multiply across. 5 times 5 and 2 times negative 8 gives me 25 over negative 16.